Well, it was exactly a year ago today, the oil rig explosion in the Gulf of Mexico, killing 11 workers and triggering the worst oil spill in the nation's history. It could be years, even decades, before we fully understand the impact of the spill on the wildlife in the Gulf, the waters of the Gulf. Dead sea turtles, baby dolphins continue to wash ashore to this day.
We want to get an update on the Gulf Coast ecosystem and how it's holding up. Joining us this morning live from Port Sulphur, Louisiana, Doug Inkley, senior scientist at the National Wildlife Federation. Doug, you just returned from a first-hand survey of the area. I know this is a really emotional experience, an emotional year for all of you involved in wildlife in the region. What have you found with this assessment?
Well, it is emotional. It's very difficult to go out into the Gulf 1 year later, and what we were seeing yesterday in the survey that we did was oil about an inch thick on the borders of the wetlands. What this was doing was killing the vegetation, making these areas more prone to washing away, erosion, and continued destruction of the wetlands that are in this area. And these wetlands are what are critically important to the seafood in the area, as well as the sport fishing.
That's right. Not only that, but it's also where species, very prized species like the brown pelican nest. There have been some accounts of you see them in these wetlands that once used to be green and lush, and now they're brown and straggly, or scraggly, I guess they're describing it.
And washing away.
And washing away. So what is the solution for that? I understand that they talked a little bit about trying to get a restoration project going. Can we turn this around?
Well, there's two solutions to this. The first is to prevent something like this from happening again, and so far Congress has taken no action to do that. They've done no reform of the oil and gas policies. The other solution to this is to do long-term Gulf Coast restoration. What we need to have happen is for Congress to enact legislation that would dedicate the fines levied against BP for this oil spill to long-term Gulf Coast restoration in this area.
Are they doing that?
They haven't taken any action yet. Congress has been sitting on their hands. They've done nothing yet to reform the oil and gas policies. After the Exxon Valdez spill, way back 22 years ago, Congress took immediate action and required double-hulled tankers. Nothing so far this time.
Let's talk about what then you're trying to do. You've got sea turtles, Atlantic bluefin tuna. These are species that are classified as in poor condition. Tell us what you're seeing and what kinds of species are affected the most.
Well, I'm concerned about a number of species. Certainly sea turtles. Some 500 Kemp's Ridley sea turtles were found dead during the oil spill. That's the most endangered sea turtle in the world. Right now we have baby dolphins that are washing ashore many times the natural rates. Most of these dolphins were conceived, the baby dolphins were conceived at the time of the oil spill. So we're really concerned about the long-term impacts that this spill will have on the entire ecology of the area.
Let's talk about those baby dolphins. In February, some 36 washed ashore. That's 15 times the normal amount, Doug. And you point out sort of the gestation when they would have been conceived, and then that would have been around the time of the oil spill. Already at the end of April, already 7 baby dolphins have been found. Normally, you say we see an average of maybe 2 stranded or dead baby dolphins, the bottlenose dolphins. What's happening to the overall ecology, you think, that is somehow in the system that's hurting these animals?
Well, I would like to have a better understanding of what's really going on, but unfortunately a lot of the studies that are being done by the government, the results are being withheld. We're not being told what they are. I guess this is apparently for litigation reasons, but the local people need to know exactly what's going on so that they can respond in the best way possible.
In terms of the vital economic aspect here of the shrimp, of the other shellfish and seafood in the area, they're still having some trouble recovering, obviously, a year later. Will that turn around? I mean, will this still continue to be a viable place for the rich resources when it comes to Gulf seafood?
Well, this is a very important area for Gulf seafood, and there's a lot of concern about the safety of it, but we hope that people will, when it's proven to be safe, will continue to utilize the area and consume the food. But the problem here is that this impact could last for many, many years, and so they're going to have to continue to do studies. Perhaps there may not be toxic components into these fish species, but there well could be lowered productivity and thus fewer fish to catch. We really don't know for sure.
All right. Hopefully it'll be a wake-up call as to restoring the marshlands and the wetlands that you've been talking about, Doug. I know that you've been a big advocate of that. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Doug Inkley, senior scientist at the National Wildlife Federation from Port Sulphur, Louisiana this morning. Good luck.
Thank you.